Hi, I'm Rajiv, and today we are going to explore the backside of a traditional painting, the stretcher and the canvas, and how that is made. In this very nondescript part of Brooklyn is a place that I visit a couple times a year, a place that I've been coming for the last 10 years to have custom-made stretchers for my paintings. Simon Liu Inc. Simon makes stretchers custom-sized for paintings, not only for artists, but for old paintings that are being conserved at museums all over the country. I love this place, I love this man, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing his technique with you today. Let's go inside. For those of you that don't know, a stretcher or a strainer is the support that goes under the canvas of a painting. Now, I'm sure every single person out there has gone into a museum or an art gallery and seen a painting, but how often are you thinking about what is behind the painting? And in these museums all over the world, some of the most valuable paintings are on stretchers that have been made recently, because a 500-year-old painting may be on originally wood that has decomposed and is not suitable for the painting. So conservators seek out people like Simon Liu to remake the support on all kinds of paintings. Simon, are you allowed to tell us what kinds of things you've made stretchers for? Like, have you made anything in the Met?
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of times though, I don't know what the end result. What is being supported.
Yes.
But sometimes, I had, make replacement stretchers for Picasso, Monet. Sometimes you don't know. I mean,
Right.
Also, a lot of blue chip artists.
So the reason why this is called a stretcher is because there's no glue in these joints, right?
There's no glue. It's all joinery.
So this is a wooden joint with no glue in the corners, and it's called a stretcher because we can actually take this and stretch it out or stretch it in.
Or reduce the size if you need to. Yes.
And this is like fine tuning, and we'll talk about that later and why that's so important.
Right.
I started coming to Simon when a friend of mine, who is a conservator at a famous museum, I needed to resize a painting, and I knew that I needed a custom-sized stretcher. And she said, well, you can go out there and you can order something online, or you can go to The Best, and The Best is right near you in Brooklyn, Simon Liu. So 10 years ago, Simon, I've known you for 10 years.
That long?
Yeah. I started coming here when I was painting dog portraits. And I would bring these dog portraits in. I would paint the dog portrait, and then I would find an antique frame, and usually the antique frame was an odd size. So I would bring the painting and the frame to Simon, and Simon would make a new stretcher for the painting. You set out to become a mechanical engineer.
Yes.
And then you now make canvases. But it sounds like your education actually had some.
It's good to have a background. Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science, but.
Did your parents say, no, you shouldn't be doing that? What are you
doing? Of course.
Doing?
You got a few degrees.
Well, this is what I mean.
You work as a carpenter.
My mom was always like, what are you doing with all this? Like, why aren't you studying? What is all this going to do? Right. This is what she would walk into my room and see me painting or calligraphy, and she would just go like this and say, stop all of this. And I think, like, you probably maybe had the same experience with your parents. Like, this is for me, it's always an inspiration to meet a fully grown adult with a full-fledged business making things for museums across the world. And this is proof of you have to follow what you're hearing inside. So the project that we have today, the thing that I wanted to share with everyone, is this process of taking an existing painting, taking it off of its existing support, and then re-stretching it onto a new stretcher and putting it onto one that Simon made for the purposes of resizing this. Now, when we take a picture on our phone, we can easily, just like this and this, crop a picture. What we're doing here today is actually cropping a picture, and this is something that artists have been doing for hundreds of years. I know Sargent, in some of his notes, he painted a portrait of a person, and when he would send it to the framer, he would say, crop this, re-stretch it, and put it into this frame. And the reason why this is actually part of the art is, like, look at this painting now. The cropping does so much to it. Like, I contemplated cropping it like this, where his head was off to the left. I contemplated maybe cropping it like this. But in the end, I settled like with a very specific cropping. And the cropping of this painting really changes the mood of it. Even just 2 centimeters changes so much. So for me, when I'm finished a painting or finished a study, that's not the end of it. Putting it in the frame and how I choose to orient it in the frame is part of the process of the art. And this is where Simon comes in. So Simon's going to...
You know, you're not going to be able to find a stretcher in our store that have the same measurements.
No.
Right? Because it's in fractions of an inch. So
yes.
It has to be custom made. I mean, I'm really fascinated by your, process from actually, inception of doing the portrait and how you eventually, found something that also worked well with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you just explain how you move it, the windows, so that you crop it a certain way that changes the mood of the painting. I mean, that's not many people usually think about. There are, designers, other people who come to me, okay, I don't like this painting, I want to crop it or cut this.
Yeah.
And they say, well, you get the artist's permission? No, I'm not going to do it because
really?
This is not ethical. Yeah, I passed out a few jobs that way.
Really?
Yeah. So, in the old days, people use screwdriver using some kind of sharp to remove staple. Now, you have this new gadget that you can buy online. It's very easy to use.
And this is specifically
this is
for
a staple remover,
yes.
right? So, there's a little thing here you can hold the staple down. Now, a lot of the time when the staple pulled out, especially people using harder wood, only one leg comes off. So this is a little device that you can clamp on it and you can pull the whole thing out.
What I liken this to is a man's suit. Like, there's the suit, but really 90% of the work in a really well-made suit is stuff that never gets seen. It's the understructure. And I've done this before. I've apprenticed with a tailor in Toronto, sat side by side with him, and what he showed me how to do was all this hand stitching of horsehair and linen and wool that creates the form. And then it all gets covered up with the final suit fabric. And that's what I think of when I see this. Okay, so now the canvas is free from the previous support.
Right. It seems like whoever helped you to stretch this up.
Yep.
Because this was raw, so after it's stretched and primed, it should be sized first, and the canvas got loose.
Okay.
And looks like that it's been keyed out. You see these corners there?
Yeah.
So this one here, supposedly you have a double key here.
Yes.
But probably you only have 4 keys.
Yeah.
And so there's 1 key is missing at each corner.
Now, let's explain this. So here's the stretcher bars, and these are called keys. And the keys are a very important thing. It's something that serves the purpose of the technical aspect here. Because these bars aren't glued together, they're just joints. The keys, if you tap them, they push these bars apart. And when a painting is moving between different temperatures and humidities, or even just sitting in your apartment between seasons, the painting can become saggy.
Right.
And the keys allow you to tap gently and stretch the wooden bars out to make the painting taut again.
Okay, now, if let's say there's a little trick here without trying to fold and all that, right?
How do we do that? How do we find the corners of
All
my
right,
markings?
if you can help me, we'll just flip it back over.
Okay.
Which way do you want to go?
Let's go this way.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Yeah, fold it back. Now, I'm going to get some blue tape.
Okay.
Or artist tape. I'm going to tape this, and you see there's a little trick here that you can find exactly. You can either use the painter's tape.
Yes.
Usually they don't leave residues when you remove it within like 7 days or even a couple of weeks.
Okay.
This is more of a artist tape that doesn't have the acidity in the tape in the glue.
Like a neutral pH.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I can do that for a second.
yeah. You can, kind of like rip me, 3/4 of inch, an inch piece. All right. So let's say if you want to crop it here, and you want to crop it there. All right. Okay. Now.
Thank you.
Let's flip it back over. It's so bright here.
Yeah.
We may have to turn off the light.
Oh, here we go.
Like, can you see the
Tape? No.
tape? Now, if you have a light table, that's the best.
Oh, right.
Right?
And a lot of conservators have a light table.
Yeah,
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Oh, I don't know if the conservator knows this trick, but seldom they have to crop the piece.
Oh, right, exactly.
They don't usually crop it.
Where are we here? There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Here. And here. Did I mark it enough?
Oh, there's one. I can see there.
All right, so then we place on the structure. Now, there's a very, very slight bevel in here because it's a thin profile.
Right.
To distinguish where's the front and the back is we always rounded the inside edge.
Okay.
Right. So it's going to fit that.
So this is beveled from this edge down into the inside very slightly, and it's very shallow. And what that does is the painting will be sitting here, but this part won't really be touching the painting. And this is such a fine detail, but all of this goes into consideration for the health of the painting long term.
Well, first of all, you have way too much margin now.
Yeah.
Right? So I can feel also too your edge is it's quite stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now this is the time to ask. We will need your permission to trim it off.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So otherwise, you're going to have a lot more margin that is going to be hard to restretch.
I did plan to cut it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's flip it over then. You know what? All right, here we go. So if we put the structure like this on there, it's close, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's good. Yeah. Perfect.
All right, now we usually try to take the height, the thickness of the structure, and then we wrap around here to get about 2 inches on the back side. I think that should give you enough space. All right, so I'm gonna go around here, and let me just cut that piece up. Now you got a pinky shear.
Yes. Scalloped. Not scalloped.
Okay, if you can give me a hand holding it, I'm gonna do a marking here. Let's do the other side. You're a great help. This I can see. Okay, good.
Okay.
Oh, now we can take this off. All right, you want to do the honor as a...
Sure. I'll do
So
the
they have
cutting.
to do the cutting.
The artist will cut. The artist can cut his painting, right?
Yeah. Right.
Simon, you don't have pinking shears?
Huh?
You don't have pinking shears?
Pinky shirt? We do, but we don't need to.
Yeah, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I left
But
my
at least you are using a tailor scissors. It's
Yes,
pretty sharp.
these are nice.
Now, if you want, we can talk about pre-prime and stretch and prime process.
Yes.
There's always a pros and cons of each process.
Oh.
The way how it's done.
So this canvas was not pre-primed.
Right.
The canvas was
This is
stretched,
and
and then
primed.
the surface was primed. When Simon mentions pre-primed, it means that the canvas is primed with gesso, the white stuff, before it's stretched onto the wooden stretcher bars. So what are the pros of this way, where it's not...
Okay. We always like to encourage, artists who use pre-prime, the way how we do the hand prime. Because if you don't size your linen, you stretch it on there, you're gonna have this issue here. Yeah. You see how this, when you stretch, there's a lot of different tension in the corner there. And when you fold also too, it has to fold in a certain way. Since we marked this with a 2-inch line here, so I will assume that your cutting is straight and
Yes.
accurate. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay. A good tailor always cut it straight.
Yes.
Now, when you see how the edge is, when you have a raw edge, the canvas can fray,
Yes.
and you end up with this, guys. Right? But a pre-prime, once you cut, you have an edge that don't have anything.
So that's
Fraying out.
that's one of the pros,
pros,
of
yeah.
pre-primed
Right.
canvas.
Now, sometimes some artists, like you did the original piece, that I just want the surface to be primed. I want to have the edges raw. So you can't use pre-prime.
Right.
You have to use the method of stretching and then prime on top. Right. Now, if you were doing it properly with sizing, that means use rabbit skin glue, or now people use PVA, matte medium, GAC 100. These are acrylic medium. Sometimes because the canvas of linen is a little bit more open weave, it may soak right through and glue onto the edge of the stretcher.
Oh.
And that's something that you don't want.
You don't, right,
You
because
don't
you don't want this stuck to
Exactly.
the wood, right?
Now you're pretty good when you were priming it with the acrylic gesso without sizing.
Yeah.
It didn't sip through. So a lot of time you see painting. Actually, we're going to restretch a piece for the museum that the artist didn't size the linen and the gesso sip through. Then you can actually see the ghost line of the crossbars.
Oh.
In some worst case, let's say some artists use even more open weave, let's say burlap or some really open weave cheap linen. When the clump of gesso sip through, it collect into big drop. And in time, when it age, you're going to see the deformation in the front because it starts shrinking and cause the canvas to shrink up to give you that, munching up look.
Yeah. I mentioned this to someone earlier. When you go to a museum, sometimes you see a really old painting, and then you're looking at the painting, but as you step aside and you catch the surface of the painting in the light, sometimes these paintings are 500 years old. Right. You see all these hills and valleys and cracks. This is the sort of thing that wasn't there when the painting was first painted, but over time, this is all natural material. I mean, originally the gesso was chalk and rabbit skin glue mixed together. That's what it was. And then we have the linen, which is from the flax plant, and we have the wood. Everything breathes, everything absorbs water, everything gives off moisture, and these things are constantly moving, like on a microscopic level. So this is where we are actually thinking about this stuff as we're preparing a painting before we've even painted a brush stroke and oil paint.
Okay, now we are restretching this, but we're creating a new fold over edge.
Yes.
So sometimes, we refer to as a tacking edge, sometimes is fold over edge. You have two, one is in the front, one is in the back, right? Now, in the old days, or even, you bought sometimes pre-stretched canvases from our store, and they staple on the edge.
They staple on this edge, right?
That is a very common practice they did years ago.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, someone come up with a fancy name called gallery wrap, and then you fold it over and then staple on the back. Yeah.
And you staple on the back?
We always do. Now, if some artists I want to imitate the old way,
Yes.
we always stretch it like this first, and then we put tack, either copper, aluminum, or even blue tack, that can age.
Yeah.
And on the side, just for show.
That's just aesthetic.
The reason why in the old days, you were mentioning about the deformation on an aged painting. It's very common that when you go look at a museum piece on the Ricking light, you can see what they call scalloping. That means when they tack it on the edge here, you see the weave got pulled, in where you have the tack, it holds. Between tack is loose, right? So when you prepare the canvas actually on the front looks like this.
Right. Yeah.
If you see it very closely, you will see it. Every painting.
Yes.
Right? Now, these days, when you use pre-prime, when you stretch it with a staple on the back, you never see that. All right. So that's another pros and cons, between, stretch and prime or pre-prime. Right?
Healthier for the painting. Now, this process scares me.
Right.
Like, I would not attempt this. The stretching of an existing painting onto a stretcher? No.
Oh, that's okay.
I would not do this.
You can do it yourself.
No, I don't want to.
As long as you don't care about, now, any kind of creating a paint film
Yeah,
will have potential crack.
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you use a picture frame that your tacking edge is hidden, doesn't matter.
You're not going to see any cracking on the
Now,
edge.
the heat gun is designed to remove paint, but you don't blow on it so directly and not moving your gun. So basically, you warming up the material, but at the same time create the air here, kind of warm. So a heat gun works much better than the hairdryer.
Okay.
All right. So let's. Now it really doesn't matter where you want to start, but basically right now is we're not going to do a lot of pulling. We just want to register by pulling with your hand and just pin it with a push pin.
Okay.
Now you can kind of monitor it, or you can just have a feel of it. You don't want it to be too hot, because it will melt the paint. But since we have a barrier here, basically we're heating up this whole area here. So, see, you can feel the difference by just pulling it a little bit.
When it's slightly warmed.
Yeah, when it's slightly warm. So, I have a heat table here a suction table that with the heated elements that I haven't set up. A museum didn't want it and then gave it to me.
Oh.
I never had the chance to work. Now, right now it's a workbench.
Okay.
A work table. Now, sometimes people think that it's unscientific, but not everything has to be like exact science, right? Otherwise, you're going to be afraid to do anything.
Yes. I should explain that there's a sequence to this. If you notice, Simon put a tack in here, and then he didn't move to here. He moved to the opposite. So this method of stretching a canvas is about creating tension over the canvas, but the tension needs to be even. And the sequence of where the canvas is tacked, like starting from one point and going around, it's really important because the gradual process of adhering or affixing the canvas to the wood is done in a way where the grain is kept as straight as possible and as even as possible in terms of tension. It's so technical.
Initially, on one side, if you pull it too hard, everything starts shifting.
Right.
So you got to learn same thing with stretching a, prime canvas on a stretcher. You register by tacking it. There's a lot of, like preliminary tacking, so that you register it pretty much center. You can see how we cut this. They're pretty much even all around.
Yeah.
So when you pull the first edge, don't overdo it because
Yeah.
you can push everything out of whack, right, to the other side. Now, there's always two schools of thought, or many schools of thought, in any kind of discipline. There's some conservator, when they want to do the restretching, they like to put this tab on.
Where?
Where you going to put your staple, right?
Oh.
So once you pull it into a certain position.
Yeah.
Now, I like to staple it in an angle, right? A lot of time, some artists will staple like this. That's not very good, especially you do multiple, because you're holding only one weave,
Right.
one line of weave.
Yeah.
If you do it in an angle, you're holding a whole bunch of lines of weave.
Right.
So now the advantage having a tab on this is sometimes humidity will rush your staple.
Rust the staple.
Yeah. And then that prevent it.
Oh.
Or in the future, if someone want to remove it,
Yep.
it's safer.
They're not going to mar the paint.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
I've
So
never seen that.
that's an extra step. Most, sometimes I'll do it for you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right. Now, this is where the tension you start to, feel if it's even or good enough for this particular painting.
So Simon stapled here, and the next staple is going directly opposite.
It seems like it's pretty good in terms of not having any cracks.
Okay.
So, but still, warming it up slightly, it really helped a little. Okay, so no sign of cracking at all, which is pretty good. You have a pretty sharp edge too. The stretcher, I just ease the edge once when I resize it. I just ease the edges a little bit, and there's no cracking in it. That means, the foundation or the primer that you use and the paint you use is very good.
That's great. Well, the foundation. Thank you, Laura.
Now, a lot of time when people do stretching of the canvas, they stretch it from the middle out, and they don't put tension in the corner, and that's a very bad way to do stretching.
So I would have no idea from here where you're gonna go. I would think are you gonna put your next staple here and then the next one here?
Yeah, we're going to expand it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I will also pull this in a little bit more.
First?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't have known that.
When it's so small like this, I still put it like 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches space. You can do it tighter. Yeah. And when I pull it out, I also pull it outward.
You pull it up and over.
Now, when you get to this point,
The corner.
you need to know how to fold the corner correctly. What you did before was just munching it up, and then you just so
Oh.
you got a nice little triangle here,
Oh yeah.
and then you line up this edge here. So if you don't frame it, it will still look neat.
Mm-hmm. Like this could go on the wall unframed,
Unframed.
and it would.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So that's pretty standard. It's not something that I invented. It's nothing.
Yeah. That's kind of nice, considering that the edges are all painted. Maybe it won't go in its frame.
No, the whole reason why you
Yes, I
brought
know.
this is
I know. I'm just joking.
you see, once you get a tight fold,
Yes.
it does crack.
Yeah, tiny
But
bit.
that's okay. So on the back, there's nothing in the front. You can't avoid it. That's the same thing with pre-prime.
Mm-hmm. This looks so nice. Maybe this should be the front of the painting. I really do.
You're creating like a little jewel.
Yeah, that's how I
A
feel.
precious little thing.
It is a jewel.
That you look at it very closely.
Every one of your stretched canvases, to me, feels like a little jewel. And sometimes the customers of those dog portraits, they have no idea. They have no idea the value of the actual canvas, but the important thing
That
is,
much thing go into it.
Yeah.
To create that.
but I know.
All right.
Wow.
All right. The moment of truth. Will it fit into your frame?
Let's see. It fits. It fits like a glove.
All right. It shouldn't be. When you need to key out, you may have to have a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. I could only give you two, right? So this
Yes.
one and this one is almost perfect.
That's
but
fine. I'll touch that up when I get home. Simon, this has been fascinating. I mean, I don't know about you, but I look at this, but I am equally as thrilled.
we're not finished yet.
Oh, we're not finished? What else? What else is happening?
Hey, this is the most important thing.
Okay, yes, please.
All right. Now,
Jump it. Yes, now.
keying,
This is something I
Is
don't think a lot
essential,
of people know about.
right?
Keying.
And there are different type of keys.
Yeah.
I make what they call it angle key. Is when you insert it in there, this is in an angle. So when you do need to hit it in there, it doesn't break the grain of the wood. A lot of time people put it this way. It's wrong.
That's
One hit, you can break this.
Because this is so fragile.
Right,
here.
exactly. And we also make round the corner here, or round the corner here, or parallel key with a little notch. We have like 6 different style key. It depends on the conservator's taste,
Okay.
or it's aesthetic. Right. So I'll give you the most popular one,
Yep.
the angle key. Now, in the past, people dip this in paraffin or wax so that the key won't fall off. But tying it is a not better solution. Now, at this point, you don't want to key it out because it's really, it's good and tight. And I would not key it and put a gap here.
Right.
So when okay, so now everything is on there.
Staples holding the threads down.
Correct. We tie a little knot in there.
So these keys, Like if the painting were to start to sag because of everything moving around in the environment where the painting's hung, then the painting could be removed from the wall and those keys would lightly be tapped. And what that tapping of the keys would do is they would extend the stretcher bars so that they move away from each other.
And give you a bigger measuring. And will give you a bigger, tighter, more tension and tighter.
It would retighten the canvas.
Most conservator has a shoebox of different size of key, different kind. And nobody else actually make keys now. We sell them a pack of 50 for them. It depends on what thickness. We have about 35 different sizes.
Really?
Yeah.
And you sell those to the conservators?
Right, exactly. Just a slip fit. That means you still have room
For keying.
Keying.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
Are we done?
I'm afraid so.
Okay, well, look, this is to me, there's the painting, and this is what some might consider a work of art, but to me, this is equally a work of art. It is a reflection of someone who intended to become a mechanical engineer and who ended up creating something that people who love art, old and new, come to you to keep our paintings in good health. Simon, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for showing us today how you do this. Every single time I come here, I'm fascinated by everything you make here, the structure of the work of art. And I don't know about you, but I was thrilled to see this being done by the master himself.
Wow, thank you. I'm honored and I'm thrilled to be able to do that for you.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Most of us can share the experience of standing in front of a painting and being moved by what's on the canvas. But for me, I'm very often moved by turning that canvas over and looking at what is behind, what's holding up the actual cloth. Being here today with Simon, seeing how this is all done, was something that I have wanted to share with you for a long time. So I thank you for watching and say goodbye. Look at these scraps. All different kinds, thicknesses and weaves of linen, and all different linen canvas that has already been primed. This is enough for a small, nice painting.